Anthony, it's good to see you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Trish, for having me.
So you've met so many of these people as they've tried to make this journey. And what did you we'll get to Title 42 in a second, but what did you overwhelmingly hear? Why is it that they wanted to come to the United States of America?
Yeah, the reason why we have a border crisis, or the reason why we have so many people coming into the U.S., has to do with the policies that are set at the border. And what is happening with this administration is a lot of reversals of old policies, and that's why you see an explosion at the border crisis that we are currently undergoing. Title 42 set to end in 2 days is one of the policies that's obviously we already see a rise. There's over 1 million people already awaiting at the U.S.-Mexico border on the Mexican side, and we're already seeing thousands here. But when I went down there, and I had been to the border several times, obviously I worked the border, but as a journalist, I was talking to a lot of the migrants, and I was asking, especially one of the things that surprised me the most was the unaccompanied children that were coming. And that's one of the policies that I was just talking about that were reversed. So this new administration said, if any child, if any minor comes to the U.S. border unaccompanied, meaning that they don't have their parents with them, they will immediately be accepted. We will not be intolerant. We will not be bigoted. We will not be racist as the previous administration. This is their words, not mine. And what this did was now we see a record unaccompanied minors coming to the border, which I've talked to, and I've said, why did you come alone? It's like, well, we were thinking of coming as a family, but my parents know that if I came alone, I would be accepted into the U.S. and I can later petition for my family to come with me. If we came as a
It's so
family,
sad.
however, yeah, they knew that if they came as a family, the chances of them getting in was a lot slimmer. And so
I
imagine,
mean, look, it's the law of unintended consequences. I say it all the time. I mean, they think they're doing the right thing, and yet
right,
it backfires. And it backfires spectacularly and in ways that have really horrendous consequences for a lot of people's lives. Because for every child that comes here and is able to find their relatives and is able to be the success story, there's plenty of other kids that succumb to all the bad stuff that is out there, and they're exploited by these groups. I mean, I don't even want to
correct.
think about it, but there's a lot of bad stuff, right, that happens when you send unaccompanied minors across the border, and they're there with these cartels that make them, it's just such a vulnerable position to be in. So clearly, like, we need a huge policy fix. In the interim, though, I mean, everybody's like in Washington scratching their head saying, well, why is it happening now? Why is it happening now? What does Title 42 have to do with it, Anthony?
Yeah, exactly. And they know exactly what they're doing. The reality is they know exactly why. They can do the sound bites. They can address the press and say, we've often said that the border is closed. The border is closed. Do not come. Do not come. But the reality is that they're coming in record numbers. And again, this all has to do with
Because the
policy.
policy's changing,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
absolutely.
it
So
used to
title,
be, as I understand it, that you had to apply for asylum while still in your home country. And now that's all changed. You can come here and apply for asylum. So, of course, everybody's going to come here. I mean, that's just sort of what you should expect, is it not?
Yeah, that is correct. And even with Title 42, for example, a policy that's been around since the 1940s, which basically gives a right to Border Patrol and the federal government to be able to expel foreign migrants at the border that come in illegally under health pretenses, which is, of course, what we've been during a pandemic for the last 2 years under this Biden administration. And what's happening is the numbers were a lot different when the Title 42 was being used under the Trump administration. Over 90% of illegal immigrants that came to the border were expelled under Title 42 during the pandemic. Compare that to the numbers that we are seeing now, where less than 50% are being expelled. So if you are an illegal migrant coming into the United States, you now have a over 50% chance to be accepted into the US, regardless of your asylum status or whatever
Wow.
pretext you have to come in. Compare that to less than 10% under Trump administration. That's why you are seeing these exploding record numbers at the border.